Toronto police is saying a man who died on the Don Valley Parkway Saturday was indeed the husband and father of the victims of a triple murder at a Thorncliffe apartment. Tammy Sutherland is live at the scene of the grisly killings tonight with how the family may have been trying to flee an abusive household before their deaths. Tammy.
Well, Gord, the man killed on the DVP Saturday is named Yusuf Abdil. Police are still investigating whether or not he was involved in the murders of his wife and two children. But we are learning tonight that there may have been trouble in the family home long before Saturday. An abuse counselor tells us that the victims reached out for help last year.
When she arrived here, she experienced the same thing that all women experience when they come in through those doors: fear.
Zara Abdil, along with her sons Ferris and Zayn, sought help from a women's shelter as she fled from an abusive home. That's according to Dr. Roz Roach, the founder of a healing center and women's shelter in Toronto.
Clearly, her extent of violence was at the degree where she felt she had to flee.
Roach says Zara and her kids left her facility after spending 3 weeks at the center beginning in July of 2013.
Her last contact was the beginning of this year, I think, when she came in to pick up her mail. And she did present, which is a style of woman to cover up and protect the people they care for, the people they love. And she presented that all was fine.
Neighbors tell us Abdil and her family, including her husband Yusuf, lived in this Thorncliffe Park high-rise for the last couple of years. This afternoon, investigators tell us that Yusuf is among the dead. Police have now confirmed that Yusuf Osman Abdil, the husband and father of the victims, was the man struck and killed on the DVP Saturday. The bodies of his wife and two sons were discovered a short time later. Police are still investigating whether or not Yusuf Abdil played a role in the murders. Coincidentally, at Queen's Park today, members of the group Action, Research and Change called on the government to ensure recommendations to stop domestic violence be implemented.
What we want to do is come back to Queen's Park and get the annual list of names of women and children murdered down to zero. That's our goal.
And appropriately funded and accessible women's shelters is a problem right across this province.
Dr. Roach is also calling for more affordable housing for women who are trying to break free.
Start with the individual. Start with yourself. What can you do to change this disease that this epidemic that we are experiencing?
Dr. Roach tells us that Zara did not qualify for legal aid and couldn't afford a lawyer on her own in an effort to help secure custody of her children. Legal Aid Ontario tells us that they do offer a program to help give increased help to domestic violence victims. Live on Thorncliffe Park Drive, I'm Tammy Sutherland. I'll send it back to...
They have gathered to remember a mother and her young sons.
Murdered in their home. A candlelight vigil is being held right now outside the Thorncliffe Park Drive apartment building where Zara Abdil and her sons lived. The three were found brutally murdered on Saturday night. Police still will not confirm any connection between the three deaths and a suicide. Our Janice Golding spoke to friends of the two young boys today.
So that's me. That's Zane. And here's a baby.
Today, many in our city are grieving lives touched by Zayn Abdil, Ferris Abdil, and their mother, public health nurse Zara Abdil. All three killed over the weekend.
Very, very sad. I mean, they were just innocent boys that had their whole lives ahead of them.
The boys attended the Pat Schultz Child Care Center for 4 years.
You don't want to believe that that's happened to them. It's just such a horrifying, senseless, it makes you angry, makes you upset, makes you sad.
At Westwood Middle School, where 13-year-old Ferris Abdil was a grade 8 student, friends are struggling with the news.
Sad and angry. He was really nice and smart, and he knew how to draw pictures a lot. He was a good friend, and he was one of those kids that he would always put a smile on your face.
That's how we remember him with his classes. They're always happy.
Tutors at the Thorncliffe neighborhood office where the 13-year-old attended a homework club had grief counseling today.
He was bubbly, he was happy, very engaged, very active, and I think that's what really hurt a lot of our staff today is his character, his personality, and remembering all that.
Police are still at the murder scene, the Abdil's East York apartment, where the children and their mother were found at around 4:30 Saturday afternoon. They were discovered hours after a man fell to his death onto the DVP. Police say the two investigations may be connected.
Wonderful people. Both were wonderful people.
At William Burgess Elementary, where 8-year-old Zain Abdil was a grade 3 student, parent Theo Margarita says he can't believe his son's longtime friend is gone.
Shock, disbelief. I knew both his parents, and it's something that nobody can really imagine can actually happen.
Janice Golding, CTV News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It's a story that has touched an emotional nerve in a Toronto neighborhood. Tonight, dozens of people turned out for a vigil honoring the mother and her 2 sons murdered over the weekend in their apartment. And as strangers mourn a family they never even knew, others are talking about what the family endured. Cindy Palm with the latest.
We want to thank you for being here today.
Whether they knew them,
I can't handle that, no.
Or not.
It's in my community, I have to come.
They shined a light on an important issue.
To stand against violence.
As the community gathered for a somber vigil, new details began emerging about the alleged abuse Zara Mahmoud Abdilay suffered at the hands of her husband. The public health worker and her 2 sons were found murdered in their apartment over the weekend.
My memory of her is a woman who was very ambitious, a very bright woman, very caring for her boys.
Dr. Roz Roach runs a center for victims of violence.
She left her husband. That's why she came, and she lived at the center.
So she didn't live at this apartment?
She lived at the shelter, the center, for a period of time and then went back.
She went back to her husband?
Well, she was supposed to go back on her own, so clearly she went back to her husband that we didn't know about.
Dr. Roach adds the older boy, 13-year-old Faris, would try to protect his mom from his dad. Classmates never knew what was allegedly going on in his family life. All they saw was a happy child.
He would make everybody laugh, you know, try to make people feel better.
Mourners said the same about Faris's younger brother Zain, just 8 years old, pictured here as a baby.
He smiled a lot.
Zain smiled a lot.
He was very nice.
Police have still not said anything about the husband, but they do say that what happened here is somehow connected to what happened over the weekend on the highway. A big portion of the DVP was closed for 8 hours Saturday after a man fell from a bridge. Police quickly covered his remains, but won't say whether this is the body of the father.
The worst thing we can do in an investigation like this is start to guess and suppose that it may have been this and it may have been that.
Staying mum on the investigation, but police are speaking out about how the murders have touched them.
And I will tell you on a personal note, it's affected the members of the Toronto Police deeply by this.
And anguish rippling through an entire community. Cindy Palm, Global News.
We are learning more today about a woman who was brutally murdered along with her 2 children in their Thorncliffe Park apartment. Catherine McDonald joins us live from a women's shelter at Brimley in Toronto, where the victim once sought help. Catherine?
Well, Rosie, sadly, we are learning today that the woman who was murdered on the weekend with her 2 young sons in a Thorncliffe Park Drive apartment was actually trying to leave her husband. Zara Abdil came to a women's shelter here in East Scarborough last summer. According to the executive director, she came with her 2 sons because she wanted to get away from a marriage. She went to court 2 times to fight for custody, but according to the executive director, Zara Abdil did not qualify for legal aid because she worked full-time. The executive director here at Dr. Roz's Healing Place says she is angry, sad, and upset. When she heard the name on the news the other night, when she saw the picture of young Faris Abdil, she recognized him, and that's when she learned that, in fact, this was the same family that had been here last summer trying to escape a violent situation. Here's Dr. Roz Roach now.
She was here with her 2 boys for about 3 weeks.
When was that?
The end of July 2013.
And that was because she was abused?
People come here because they're abused. The only way you can get into Dr. Roz's Healing Place, the criteria is abuse.
Why did she leave?
Why did she leave where?
Why did she go back home?
I'm not in her head. I don't know why she went back home, but I can only say what I know from my 35 years of working in the field, is that women go back to the abusers sometimes because of fear of being killed, that the man would find them and kill them. Maybe they can't afford the financial situation.
Now, the executive director here at Dr. Roz's Healing Place, Roz Roach, tells me that her son, Faris, 13-year-old boy who went to Westwood Middle School, actually tried to protect his mother, which is very common with young children who see their parents being abused. I asked if they were going to be turning this file over to police, who are still investigating this triple homicide. She said because of confidentiality, that's not a done deal. She said she believes that this woman, Zara Abdil, and her two sons were failed by the system because they had to return home because of financial reasons, she believes. This woman, again, was a nurse who worked full-time for Toronto Public Health and therefore did not qualify for legal aid when it came to trying to get custody of her two children. We'll have more on this story tonight on the News Hour. Back to you.
Thank you, Catherine McDonald. A tragic story indeed.